know that the IT as we know it is changing, right? At least I can speak from my own experience when I look at the traditional bank that we are. I work for Citibank, and the environment's changing. Right? I go to different floors in my own building, and I see the open environment. I see the young crowd coming in. In the consumer group, we just started a new group called City FinTech. And they're not even bringing the legacy bankers in because they don't want us to cloud the judgment there, right? So, at least, and it is really being run as a startup within the legacy bank, right? And that's changing the roles that you and I are traditionally been accustomed to, from a business analysis to project management to development, testing, et cetera, right? So, it's changing, right? And so, just to kind of kick off the discussion here, and I'm hoping that you guys are mingling and really coming up with those questions. Otherwise, you're going to have to live with my lame questions. I'm going to throw a couple of these questions to our panelists. So I give you a couple of minutes to write these questions while I quickly introduce our first panelists. Right. So we have starting from here, Irfan Motiwala. He's the managing director with Moody's Corporation. In the technology area, right? And we have Sadiq Sharif. He's an associate director of the program management office with Deloitte Consulting. Gulrez Jamadar. He's with the director of IT control and information security at the institution client group at Citigroup. And then we have Kashif Jafar at the end, who's the director of business technology with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, right? Unless they're in any other business. Okay, so I'm not going to read their bios. There are handouts you can read. It's a double-sided handout, so you may have to flip if you want to see who they are, what they do. And one disclaimer that a couple of them told me to read is that whatever they share here is their personal views, right? It does not represent their companies, right? Because some of these are pretty esteemed and reputable within their companies, and these views are theirs, not their companies, right? So just a disclaimer. Okay, so let's get into the first question. In this new environment, right, that's coming up in terms of some of the traditional roles that are changing, what are you seeing in your organization, as I just shared at Citi, a traditional bank, really trying to evolve and getting into the competition with Citi FinTech. The FinTechs out there, right? You've come up with Citi FinTech, and in fact, in one of the next panelists, we have somebody who's an expert at looking at disruption, right? So, but looking at this disruption, what types of roles, if any different, are coming up in your organizations that our audience can glean some insights from to see if they want to do something different to prepare? Who'd like to go first?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, I mean, there is a huge, I think, change going on in the market right now, specifically to technology. And I use the word technology rather than IT because I think it hugely depends on the space you're in and in the industry you're in. Because if you're in an industry that's trying to establish, fundamentals, then I think that's, a very different space. If you're playing in the tech sector specifically and working for a tech-based company, then there's a lot of other things going on. But so from my own personal experience of the company I work for at Moody's, we're in financial services. We're heavy in the data space, and a lot of consulting firms put us in the media sector of their practice. But what happens, I think, at a lot of mid-sized and large companies is a lot of the job functions within IT are changing. So, after all the offshoring has been going on for 15, 20 years, new job descriptions are beginning to come out, ranging from anything related to the things that get a lot of media attention, like big data and things like that, to, Gartner had released some research around where the IT, what a future state IT organization is going to look like in about 5 to 10 years. And they have new positions like, transformation officer. I mean, some companies have already started that, but also things like vendor management becomes really, really big, because since the tech sector changes so rapidly, more and more, whether you're offshoring to your traditional places like in Asia for development requirements, but more importantly, even when you use strategy and management consulting and things like that, it's very, very difficult to hire those kind of niche experiences within your own firm, and not only hire them, but then retain them. And so as a result, the real skill comes in how do you develop vendor strategies, how do you make sure that you can have competing firms within, how do you structure contracts, so vendor brokerage. So these are like sort of non-traditional jobs that I think have not always been at the forefront in the IT space and are becoming more and more important. And the larger your firm, the more important it's becoming, and it's becoming front and center. So I would say probably non-traditional, non-tech vendor management would be a big deal.
So I will begin with saying software is eating your jobs. That's a common term that's being used nowadays, but there are significant amount of opportunities also being created. More in terms of not only having the technical skills, but also building on your business skills and your leadership skills. I think the problem space nowadays has become so large that not one individual or one technologist can solve the problem. So collaborating with teams, effective communication, presentation, solving problems is becoming more and more relevant nowadays, because if you are in technology and a deep technology expert, that expertise, lifespan of those expertise is reducing because of the pace at which technology is changing. So it is very important for you to adapt and gain some of the business skills necessary for running organizations, especially for those who are in their mid-career life, who are deep technologists. I would encourage you to also look at where the organization is heading, what is the organization's real strategy, and start participating in those outside your comfort zone boundaries and participate and start contributing in those areas, because technology skills, I'll say this again, software is eating up jobs. Technology is eating up jobs. So the products that you create may render you jobless tomorrow. Right? So it is important for you to start thinking outside the box and see where are the areas that you can contribute more towards from a business development, customer-centric, service-oriented viewpoint.
So I think a couple of things come to mind, right? When you think about just technology and how the space is evolving, you have extensive use of now robotics. And robotics in the sense, when you think about file transformations, when you think about data transformations, using software to actually programmatically automate the tasks that humans would probably do. That's an area of emerging, I would say, focus for a lot of companies, and especially in Citigroup, for example, we've been looking at operational processes and how we can streamline those areas. You've got blockchain technology, and I think in one of the other sessions probably you will hear it. Blockchain is another one. For those of you who don't know, the bitcoins of the world that's coming out there, the underlying technology that's supporting that particular philosophy. Banks are looking at how we can actually leverage that technology. Not necessarily the use of Bitcoin, but the underlying technology architecture. I think some of the brothers spoke here about third-party vendors. So in my role, and perhaps my view is a little bit skewed in the sense I look at cybersecurity for the institutional clients group, and essentially if you think about the risk, there are applications in our environment that move about $3 trillion every day. So from a security standpoint, it becomes very, super critical. If there's another definition, we can go for that as well. But cybersecurity, given the state of threat actors across the globe, where you look at state-sponsored terrorism, the cyber activism that's going on, folks like Anonymous, the teams that actually go about pursuing certain ideological agendas, those are certain areas. So cybersecurity is absolutely a growing field. The skills from an analytics standpoint, from big data analysis, because today we are inundated with data. but the question comes down to how do you make sense of this information? And that's where the big data technology and data scientists, those are the other fields that we come across. Now, I straddle two organizations, basically overlooking cybersecurity, and the other half is looking and supporting a development organization, about 15 to 20,000 developers, and we actually support all the software development processes that go along with it. In a heavily regulated environment, third-party, fourth-party vendor risk management is evolving. You're looking at data, and when you think about data itself, the perimeter between a traditional company or a boundary of a company versus your vendor has almost become one where your vendor, your third party, fourth party, even fifth party has extended. So that element of risk boundary, that boundary no longer exists. So the risk management frameworks that we develop, those are becoming very essential. That's another field, going back to some of the roles that are evolving. Risk management, technology risk management in general, is actually evolving and much more focused given the heightened regulatory expectations around some of the financial vertical, if you may.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, congratulations on organizing such a great event. I think it's just a great start, and I hope to see many more sessions coming up in the near future. These panelists have already touched upon some of the trends and changes happening in corporate America. I would just take the first, an interesting word that Amir threw at the beginning, the disruption, and would like to just relate with that word first. Traditionally, in any organization, there are a few people who will come up with ideas, and then those ideas will be imposed across the organizations. Many people will simply wonder as to why we are doing these things. Recently, the recent phenomena, and I had a chance to work with the global head of innovation at Pfizer for over a year as a client partner, where Pfizer was looking at expanding innovation across Pfizer globally, and the challenge was how to really eliminate the barriers to innovation. And the term disruptive actually, is tossed, significantly and frequently. The idea is that instead of having just a very few individuals coming up with ideas, why not involve 90 or 95% of the employees of an organization and try to see if there are great ideas out there. And with that, the whole platform for innovation comes into the picture. And there's a technology crowdsourcing which is becoming very, very popular now, where there are technology platforms, companies launch those technologies, make sure that an individual employee would have the opportunity to not only propose the ideas, but also thumb up or thumb down the ideas. So think about innovation broadly. I might not get into the specifics of the technology platform, but industry is changing very, very quickly. People are coming up with new ways of coming up with ideas, new ways of thinking about different things, challenging the status quo, and that's required, even outside the industry as well. With that, the broader question is, when everything else is happening, what do we do to make sure that we have a successful career, right? At the end of the day, it's about building a career that is so sustainable and so productive that you should be able to, weather all those kind of new technologies and new storms. Because you may not have the control over the new technology, but you may have control on your own career. And with that, there will be many ideas, and there are several approaches to a career. And I would like to emphasize on one thing, at least from my perspective, and I call it a strategic approach towards your career. And what I mean by strategic approach is that, you actually look at all the things available to you and really assess your own skills, your own interest, your own passion, and see if there is something that you can uniquely, identify and then and then present something so unique in terms of value-adding proposition that no one else might be doing it at that level. So Michael Porter, the father of strategy at Harvard Business School, he thinks that there are only two ways you can differentiate yourself. One is product differentiation. So you produce something that is so uniquely, value-adding that no one should be able to copy it. And the second thing is lower cost. So if you pick a career based on commodity skills, the only way you have to compete is to lower your price, because there will always be somebody out there offering the same service on a lower cost. And then very soon you will see that even though the pie is big and you will still have the slice, but in order to sustain your career, it will always be a tough battle. So what I would like this crowd and this professional group here is to see if you can uniquely create a sustainable career path in such a way that you should be offering something so value-adding that should significantly differentiate your skill set, your offering from your peers or people in the next company. So hopefully we're going to build upon this thought process as we proceed in this conversation. But if there is one thing that I would like you guys to take, when you leave this room, is think about a strategic career choice, a strategic roadmap for your own career, and we'll talk more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess the message here is that the learning never stops, right? The market's going to evolve on you every single day. Yeah, you could be a developer today, but that doesn't mean that you sit in your cube back there and coding away. You have to understand what's going on around you, what are the new technologies that are coming up. You got to know what the organization is in the business of. It's not just about writing code, right? You have to know why you're writing. So, thank you, panelists, and I welcome Brother Armugan.
Assalamualaikum everyone.
We will get to I guess questions now on the floor here, right? So any questions here that you all may want to ask? Imam Shibli.
First of all, thank you for coming to your society. Second, Jazakallah khair, the brother, the third. Yes, you mentioned every day you transfer or you work with 3 trillion million. $3 trillion. Can you send us some
We have a question here.
Assalamu alaikum. Great point, guys. Really touching upon a lot of things. So I had a bit more specific drilling down question to the theme that you guys touched, and I'm really